Good morning. Hello again. Today I wanted to talk about your kids' behavior and anxieties. Um, and the first thing I want to talk about is actually talking to your kids about what's going on in the world. So I'm sure most of you at this point, the questions have come up and your kids know a little bit about what's going on in the world. So I wanted to dive a bit deeper with that and talk about how your kids might be coping with that anxiety, and how you might be coping with your kids' anxiety. So a lot of kids might be showing a very large variety of reactions to this. Trouble sleeping, or change in the way they're eating, or trouble with memory even, regression in emotional regulation, so their ability to speak about what they're going through and tell you those things. You might be seeing a lot of fighting between your kids or things like that, ways that stress has come out for kids. Stomach aches, headaches, things like that. I just wanted to let you guys know that those things are normal. They're normal ways that kids process their emotions. And I wanted to talk about letting go of the need to control behavior. So it can be very triggering at times when our kids are acting up in certain ways that seem, especially when they go against kind of things we know to value, like their manners, or we feel like they're acting with a certain level of entitlement or privilege, and we can carry a lot of weight in those areas and a lot of guilt. And when we do feel the shame of, like, oh my gosh, my kid is behaving this way, I'm doing something wrong here. And that kind of looking at ourselves doesn't really help us move forward and allow our kids to just emote. For sure, everything's our fault, right? So probably it's our fault, but that doesn't make you a bad parent. That makes you a human being. And I think what's important is an ability to step back and be like, I have a part here, for sure. I have anxiety, I have frustration, I'm adapting to all these changes. So of course my child's gonna feel that. And of course that's gonna be in my kid. It doesn't make me a bad parent or a bad human because I'm processing emotion. I need to be a human. And so remembering that they are also just processing our emotions and their own, and letting them have that have that ability to just have those reactions in a very normal way is really, really important. And so we've all been through this with toddlers, and unfortunately when big stresses come up in the world, those things are going to come back. And I think that going back to the advice that we look to as parents of toddlers is a really important step to understanding how to cope with our older kids processing trauma. And so looking at the emotional regulation in particular. So when kids are very little, it's a developmental phase. We know that kids just will scream and kids will have tantrums, and kids will be very, very upset over the fact that they got the wrong socks on that morning, or something really simple. And it's very plain to see that that's development, and it's just them learning how to process their emotions. Now, it's not always so easy as having patience with that, and remembering that that's just part of their learning. Now, when kids get to age 6, 7, 8, 9, we have an expectation of them that they can carry their emotions in a different way, that they can come to us, they can ask their questions. And if we've created an environment where we support those questions being asked and want to answer them, we have come to maybe expect that from our kids. But they are in a time that they've never experienced before, just like you are. And they need to learn how to have emotions in this place too. And so they need to know that they can feel those things and still be held in a safe bubble while they feel those things. And that doesn't mean just accepting everything and letting them do whatever they want, but it does mean holding space for their reactions. And when they feel disappointment, in a big way, that they can't go see their friends and there's big change. Just like when they were small, we're not going to be able to just say, oh, well, yeah, let's go to your friend's house, let's give in all the time. It's not always possible, but it is an opportunity to allow them to feel those feelings and have those reactions, and to know that the safe people in their lives, their primary caregivers, will still be a solid foundation for them to go to in that moment. And so when they freak out at us because we made the breakfast wrong, or I don't know, so they're very mad at us because they can't go see their friends, things like that, it is okay and encouraged to just let them be mad about it, and not take it personally as us having done something wrong in their upbringing, because you didn't. That's not why they're having that reaction. They're having that reaction because there's stress all around them. And the more we bring in our worries that we're raising entitled kids, or that we're whatever the list of things that we might have on our shoulders that we may have done wrong, causes us to have these big reactions. And so something I would like to encourage you to do is to make sure that you have at least one adult in your life that you're going to talk to about those fears, about the fear of your kid's reaction, meaning that when they're an adult, they're going to think everything comes to them easily and they get whatever they want, and da 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 da. Or your fear that, well, what if this doesn't end soon? And what if you don't get to see your friends? And what if this does damage you socially? Those are real concerns for parents right now. I have an only child who isn't interacting with anyone his age, and that's a very scary thing. But I do need to have faith that it's going to be okay, enough so that when that expression of need for play constantly comes out of him, I'm not taking it personally as like, oh my gosh, I can't give you that. I can't possibly play with you as much as you want me to. I'm bad. Because if I have that reaction in me, then that doesn't leave space for him to feel frustrated that he doesn't have someone to play with in that way. And it's the same for all of our kids. They want a partner to experience that growth with. They want a peer, and they don't have that, and we can't be that. But being okay with the fact that we can't be that, and then that can hold the space for them to be upset in that feeling. So really making sure that you're talking to someone about those fears that are so real for all of us. We have a wide range of them right now, and making sure that though we're feeling those things, we're not then cutting off our child's ability to feel those same things because we're afraid of them is really important. And letting go of that behavior being like a sign that we're doing things terribly wrong. Another tip that I'm going to give, and I think I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again, in uncertain times, in stressful times with trauma, reading another person's emotion becomes very difficult. So when feelings seem so out of place and so all over the map for a kid, reading a parent's emotion can be really confusing, and they can internalize a lot of things. And one thing that when I was working in more trauma-based teaching that I practiced every single day, multiple times a day, was to announce how I felt inside. And this is really important because it lets the kids know that, if I react a certain way, remember I was already feeling that. It's not on them. It's not because of them, but I was actually already feeling that. So when I walk into the classroom, I will communicate, I'm feeling really tired. I didn't get a good sleep. And it also opens the dialogue to find out how your kid is feeling. Even if it doesn't happen right away, even if it doesn't happen this week or next week, they'll have heard that normalized expression of feeling, and labeling those feelings. And so if you walk into a space and you notice yourself having a feeling, expressing that to your kid is not putting too much on their shoulder. Maybe telling them a whole rant about that thing that your sister did that really made you angry is not an appropriate amount of weight to put on your kid. But telling them, hey, I'm really frustrated because I feel hurt by something that happened in my family, that's okay. That's an acceptable way to speak to your kid and let them know that you experience those emotions too. I'm feeling really frustrated right now. Maybe I just need a little break. Do you mind playing outside with your sister? That's not putting the weight of your stress on them. It's asking for a favor and respecting them enough to believe that they can handle knowing that you have feelings too. yeah, so those are my little pieces of parenting and working with kids advice for this morning. Hope everything is going well with you. Take it easy on yourself and remember to be empathetic, and that you're only a person. And even when we talk in ideals of how we want to be as parents, we are all just real people who are flawed and make mistakes and get impatient and frustrated and sad and angry and anxious, and that's okay and that's normal.